Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Just a little programming note. Callers obviously may sometimes say things that we don't want to go out over the air. And we have to bleed off our dump button over the last 90 seconds before we go to the breaks. There wasn't anything that we could do to prevent that from going out. Obviously, I have a caller there that was energized about the topic. So our apologies that we weren't able to stop that from going out over the air. But obviously she was speaking there with some passion and some energy about what she had experienced there at Fort Hood. Now, I want to talk a little bit about immigration. Let's grab clips 1, 2, and 3 if we can, Rob. This is Ted Cruz on Sean Hannity last night talking about this, the Amnesty 8. And remember, Marco Rubio is all over this thing. Marco Rubio is behind this thing. He's part of the Amnesty 8. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, what they are proposing is amnesty. That's what it is. They may call it something else, but every proposal, Chuck Schumer's out there on Sunday talking about the fact that what we are talking about here is instant legalization. Maybe not instant citizenship, but you're talking about granting instant legalization before the border is secure. It's instant. The first thing that happens is they're legalized. So then come out of the shadows and all that kind of stuff. Then they're going to go to work on border security and all that. It's a total pipe dream. It's a total sham. None of those promises have ever been kept. Same thing was tried in 1986. Again, Ronald Reagan went for it. He got duped. He went for the immediate granting of amnesty with the promise of border security. And the amnesty was granted. 3 million were instantly legalized, granted citizenship. The promised border security never, ever came. So Ted Cruz, and now Marco Rubio is calling for a slowdown. He wants hearings and all that kind of thing. And I'll tell you what I think is going on here. I think Marco Rubio is looking for an exit strategy. I think he's looking for some way to get out of this thing because he realizes he stepped in it when he got involved with the Amnesty 8. He thought it was going to be good for him politically. He's going to be hanging around with John McCain. He's going to be hanging around with Lindsey Graham. He's going to be hanging around with Chuck Schumer. Everybody's going to marvel at the wonders of Marco Rubio and how he's able to cross the aisle and bring people together and get something good done. And that's why he abandoned. He was not a pathway to citizenship guy before this Amnesty 8 crew. He didn't support the pathway to citizenship. But he had an opportunity. He got stars in his eyes. Here's a way to kind of increase my profile, raise my profile, all in view of 2016. Marco Rubio's thinking about 2016. He wants to be president. And he mistakenly thought that getting behind this amnesty proposal and showing how wonderfully he's able to cross the aisle and mix with people from all different political perspectives, that somehow he thought this was going to be a political advantage to him. And he's realized he's on the wrong side of this issue, that the Republican Party, the base, conservatives in America, do not support amnesty. They're not down with that. They're not for it. They're against it. And I believe as this thing goes forward, we're going to see the same passion against amnesty that we saw 2007, 2008. So I think Marco Rubio realizes, whoops, I came down on the wrong side of this issue, and this now is putting my hopes for 2016 at risk. So now Marco Rubio is trying to slow this train down, and I frankly think he's looking for some graceful way to get out of this thing, to turn it into the Amnesty 7. So I think that's Rubio's strategy right now, is to find some way to say, look, I tried to make this work. I hung in there. I worked with them. We spent a lot of hours on this trying to come together, come up with a plan that worked. But I really believe now, I think his exit strategy, we got to have all these hearings. You know, in 1986, that bill had over 100 hours of hearings. It was 3 years in the pipeline. It was debated. They had hearings. And what Senator Leahy and Chuck Schumer are talking about here is running this thing through, expediting it, no debate, no hearings, no nothing, just jamming this thing through. And Rubio is realizing what a mistake this is now for him personally and politically. I think it's more about his political fortunes than about what's right when it comes to immigration. So now he's looking for some way to try to get out of this thing, because he's going to go down with the ship. If he hangs in there with the Amnesty 8, he's toast in 2016. And I think he's smart enough to realize that he made made a boo-boo here, so he's looking to get out of this thing, and his current strategy is make a big deal of slowing this thing down. We've got to have all these kind of hearings, and if they won't go for it, then Rubio's got his excuse. Look, I just do not believe this is too important to rush this thing through. I'm going to have to step off of this team because I think this needs more time and attention. Now, Ted Cruz hasn't been down with this from day one. He's on Sean Hannity last night, and Sean Hannity asked Ted Cruz, he's the senator from Texas, asked him where he stands on this amnesty bill, this immigration bill, and Hannity mentions Marco Rubio, and that Rubio is trying to slow the thing down. You know, Rand Paul has talked about the fact we've got to have Congress vote on whether the border is secure, and he says it's got to be an inspector general. You know, I part company with Rand Paul. He's for legalization. He's for amnesty once we get the border secure. I'm not for amnesty, pathway to citizenship, period, under any circumstances. That's just rewarding lawbreaking. That's not what America is about. We just simply should not do it. But Rand Paul, at least, would say, well, we got to have an independent inspector general report, and then Congress has to vote. We're not going to let Janet Napolitano certify that the border is secure because she's already saying, hey, it's never been more secure. So on the one hand, Janet Napolitano is saying, oh, we're going to have to furlough all these Border Patrol agents. We're going to have to leave the border unpatrolled and unmanned for hours at a time because we just can't afford it because of the wascally, mean Republicans. We don't have the money to keep all of our Border Patrol. But at the same time, she's saying at the same time, the same week, hey, the border's never been more secure. She's ready to sign off on border security tomorrow. Rand Paul says there's no way in the world we can trust that. So anyway, Hannity asked Ted Cruz about where he stands on the border security issue and on the immigration issue. Here's what he had to say.
Well, it depends on what the details are that are in the bill. We still haven't actually seen a bill. Chuck Schumer keeps promising that there is some bill that one day he'll show the world. What I've been saying for a long time is I think there are parts of the deal that could be positive. I think to the extent they're increasing resources to secure the border, to increase manpower, to give technology on the border, to stop illegal immigration, I think that's a good thing. To the extent they're improving and streamlining legal immigration so our legal immigration system works better, I think that's a good thing also. The part that I've got deep concerns about is any path to citizenship for those who are here illegally. I think that is profoundly unfair to the millions of legal immigrants who have followed the rules, who've waited in line. And so I think the reason that President Obama is insisting on a path to citizenship is that it's designed to be a poison pill to scuttle the whole bill so he can have a political issue in 2014 and 2016. I think that's really unfortunate.
So Ted Cruz, he's just flatly opposed to the pathway to citizenship for people who are here illegally. And I'd like to have you weigh in on that. If you want to call on that question, 888-589-8840. What do you think about a guaranteed pathway to citizenship for illegal aliens, for people that are here illegally? Do you support amnesty? Do you support instant legalization? Do you support a pathway to citizenship for those who are here illegally? Now, Ted Cruz says, I'm flatly opposed to that. So Hannity goes on to talk about Rubio's conversation about a path to a green card. Jeb Bush has been kind of slipping and sliding on his position on immigration. The plan he outlined in his book, Jeb Bush's plan, doesn't lead to citizenship. Marco Rubio says you got to have a path to a green card and later for citizenship. Rand Paul's the trust but verify on the border. And so Sean Hannity says this to Ted Cruz: if we first of all secured the border, that to me doesn't go anywhere unless it is done first. Do you think the president would be willing to do that? Here's what he said.
Well, I think the American people have learned before that when politicians promise to secure the border, every time it's been said in the past, it hasn't happened. So I think most voters share the skepticism.
Yeah, we lost you there a second. Most voters, what?
I think most voters share the skepticism I have of empty promises and hot air.
Well, and that's why I think the trust and verify provision, is that one that you support?
I think anything that requires securing the border first is a step in the right direction. But I think a path to citizenship is designed not to pass.
So he thinks that what Marco Rubio thinks is that President Obama is setting the Republicans up for a fall here because he knows that a pathway to citizenship won't pass, and he will use it to demonize the Republicans in 2014 and 2016. Here's the third soundbite. Sean Hannity asked Ted Cruz, what about those who would have a path to a green card? Would you support a path to a green card if the border was secured first?
The problem with the green card is is a permanent legal resident status, and anyone who has a green card is eligible for citizenship within 5 years. And so if someone can get a green card, that is a path to citizenship. And what it means, even if someone goes to the back of the line, what it means is that if you're somebody in another country who wants to come to the United States and you followed the rules, you applied and applied to come legally, if we pass something that allows those here illegally to achieve citizenship, it means you're a chump for having stayed in your own country and followed the rules because you were not able to live here and raise your family and enjoy the tremendous blessings of liberty in the United States simply because you followed the rules. And I think we need to uphold the rule of law, and we need to be fair to legal immigrants. Legal immigrants get left behind in a lot of this discussion.
So that's Ted Cruz. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. What do you think about what Ted Cruz is saying here? Ted Cruz is saying no pathway to citizenship. It's not fair to legal immigrants. You've had all these people that have been playing by the rules. They've stayed in their home countries. They've waited in line like everybody's supposed to do. And they're getting penalized now because the people that snuck in here, that broke our laws, that are in here illegally, they're criminal trespassers, they're getting rewarded. They're getting instant legalization. They get to stay here. They get a privilege that is denied to people who have played by the rules and gone through the legal process. And he says we should not have a pathway to citizenship. We ought to honor the rule of law and be sure that we are being fair and just with those who are playing by the rules. Like to know what you think. 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Take your calls when we come back. Focal Point AFR Talk.